Well, here we are. Pickup trip. We're picking their equipment back up. They're bringing some additional wood over here.
In every story of remarkable individuals, there is always a legacy left behind. And in the case of Otto Kilcher, our investigation finds that this legacy extends far beyond the 11 seasons of Alaska, The Last Frontier, which introduced him to millions of viewers across the globe. Long before Discovery Channel cameras ever arrived at the Kilcher homestead, Otto had already built a reputation as a man who lived by the principles of self-sufficiency, values instilled in him by his pioneering. Swiss parents, Yule and Ruth, who braved Alaska's rugged land decades earlier. This philosophy of independent living was not merely about survival in harsh conditions but also about crafting a meaningful way of life, and Otto carried this torch with quiet determination. Unlike many television figures who embrace fame, Otto consistently resisted the trappings of celebrity, choosing instead to teach and pass on vital skills such as livestock management, machinery repair, winter food preservation, and the ethic of perseverance to his children and extended family, most notably August and Eve, ensuring that these ancestral practices would not disappear with the march of modern convenience. Our reporting further reveals that his influence went beyond his family, as the local Homer community recalls countless contributions, helping repair shared roads, lending out tools, or offering guidance on animal care. Actions that defined him not only as a television personality but as a neighbor deeply rooted in his environment. In fact, Otto served as a bridge between two very different worlds: the labor-intensive homestead existence of Alaska and the comfort-driven urban lives of his audience, many of whom were inspired by his example to start gardening, repair things at home, or rethink the value of simplicity. Through his consistent authenticity, Otto became a living proof that resilience and honest labor carried more weight than theatrics or exaggerated drama, making his legacy not a fleeting product of entertainment but an enduring testimony to the virtues of humility, independence, and authenticity that he embodied every single day. Our newsroom investigation highlights that the closeness between Otto Kilcher and those around him, particularly his family, was never the product of sudden fame or television scripting but rather a gradual, organic development born in the quiet rhythms of shared work and mutual respect. Sources familiar with the Kilcher homestead recall that many of Otto's most formative relationships, especially with his children and extended family, began in the simplest settings, around long hours of cattle herding, machinery repairs, or meal preparations during winter. At first, interactions resembled nothing more than collaboration between colleagues striving toward the same goal of survival, yet over time these shared duties created an intimacy impossible to ignore. It was in those unscripted, off-camera conversations that Otto became not only a mentor but also a confidant, offering encouragement, advice, or sometimes just humor to lighten the burden of relentless labor. Eyewitness accounts from production crew members further confirmed that while Discovery Channel initially portrayed Otto largely as a skilled mechanic, they quickly discovered the hidden warmth of his character. His ability to share laughter with Eve over a broken tractor, his willingness to listen to August's frustrations, and his instinct to provide quiet reassurances when others faltered. These seemingly small interactions began resonating far beyond the homestead as fans identified with the authenticity of his familial bonds, contrasting them with the often fragmented connections of modern life. Over time, this camaraderie, rooted in shared hardship and ordinary joys, elevated Otto's public persona from a simple craftsman to a symbol of kinship, proving that his influence was not measured only by mechanical skill but by the lasting trust and affection he cultivated among those closest to him, relationships that would ultimately fortify the Kilcher family through public scrutiny, personal trials, and the shifting tides of reality television fame. In reviewing the footage archives of Alaska, The Last Frontier, as well as testimonies from both crew and longtime viewers, it becomes increasingly evident that some of Otto Kilcher's most defining legacies were not in grand speeches or orchestrated heroics, but in the seemingly minor acts of kindness and attentiveness that cameras happened to catch. These moments, when broadcast into millions of homes, transformed him from a quiet homesteader into an emblem of authenticity, where audiences did not simply admire his mechanical genius but connected deeply to the humanity behind it. One such scene, often revisited in fan discussions, shows Otto pausing mid-repair on a frozen tractor to help a family member with a trivial need, smiling softly as he reassures them that no task is ever too small to matter. This clip, devoid of dramatics, resonated far more than any staged confrontation could. Additional reports indicate that crew members frequently noticed Otto going out of his way to comfort livestock during harsh winters, speaking to them gently as if they were companions rather than mere farm animals, behavior that many viewers cited as proof of his compassionate nature. Social media records show that fans often shared screenshots of these candid moments, calling them the heart of the show. While insiders have acknowledged that Discovery Channel itself eventually leaned on these spontaneous captures to shape his on-screen persona as the emotional anchor of the Kilcher family. Furthermore, relatives recount how Otto consistently prepared meals for others during exhausting filming days, sometimes insisting that younger members eat first, reinforcing his reputation as both caretaker and leader. These subtle, understated gestures, bringing water to a struggling hand, fixing a child's sled in the background, or silently lending a tool without fanfare, became symbolic of a larger truth. Otto's value was never an orchestrated spectacle but in living proof that resilience, kindness, and attentiveness can coexist even in the harshest environments, making him not just a figure on television but a relatable, almost familial presence in the lives of countless viewers across the globe. In the annals of modern television, where branding often overshadows authenticity, the creation of a nickname may appear trivial, yet in the case of Otto Kilcher the equivalent came not in clever slogans or scripted lines but in the organic way fans adopted his image and shaped his role in collective memory, demonstrating how even reality television evolves into folklore when audiences invest emotionally. While Otto himself was never one to seek out catchphrases or stage his identity, he nonetheless became the subject of affectionate shorthand among devoted viewers who labeled him the backbone of the Kilchers, an unofficial moniker that began in online forums but quickly seeped into fan pages, social media hashtags, and eventually into how journalists themselves framed his presence in headlines. Family members have since recalled how Otto often laughed off such labels, stating in interviews that he was just fixing things same as always, yet this casual dismissal only amplified his appeal, with audiences interpreting his humility as evidence of genuine character. Discovery Channel insiders later confirmed that producers subtly leaned into this audience-driven branding by frequently centering episodes around Otto's mechanical problem-solving, knowing that fans tuned in as much for his steady demeanor as for the unpredictable Alaskan challenges. Reports from Reddit threads and Facebook groups dating back nearly a decade reveal that fans used this nickname as a rallying point, a way of creating community across continents, and in that simple label they constructed a persona larger than Otto himself. A mythos of the quiet hero who neither demanded attention nor disappointed when thrust into it. Over time, the backbone became less a fan joke and more a statement of fact, with media articles citing Otto as the glue holding both homestead and show together. Proof of how public perception, once crystallized into a symbolic name, can rewrite the story of a person's life. And while Otto may have personally resisted theatrics, the persistence of this nickname ensured that even in his absence he remained a presence, a reminder of how audiences, through shared language and repetition, elevate a man who never courted fame into a cultural figure remembered not by scripted lines but by an identity born from the collective imagination of those who watched him week after week. In every long-running reality series there arrives a moment when the glossy veneer of television cannot disguise the raw humanity of its subjects. And for Otto Kilcher those moments came in the form of very real crises that tested not only his resilience but the strength of the family around him, ultimately revealing the profound role of mutual support in his story. Medical emergencies such as the widely documented hernia surgery in 2016, the subsequent blood clot scare, and most dramatically, the cattle trampling incident in 2022 underscored how fragile life on the Alaskan frontier could be even for a man celebrated for mechanical ingenuity and quiet toughness. And it was during these moments that the world witnessed the Kilcher family rallying behind Otto with a mix of urgency and devotion that spoke volumes about the deep relational fabric binding them. Accounts from those seasons, cross-checked with footage and family social media posts, show how brothers, children, and community members mobilized to shoulder his duties on the homestead, stepping in for winter chores, livestock care, and machinery repair, while simultaneously offering emotional reinforcement to a patriarch unaccustomed to physical limitation. Longtime viewers recall how unusual it was to see Otto not leading but instead relying, yet in that reversal lay the most revealing glimpse of his humanity, for he allowed cameras to capture his vulnerability, a rare departure from his typically unflappable demeanor. Critics of reality television often argue that such scenes are manipulated for drama, but testimony from crew and the unvarnished quality of the footage suggest otherwise, portraying a family whose support transcended production schedules and whose actions were not staged but born of necessity. Fans, too, responded with a surge of empathy, flooding online forums with messages of concern and prayers, revealing that Otto's quiet influence had cultivated a community that felt compelled to return the support he had unknowingly offered them through years of televised resilience. In this way, the crises did more than endanger him, they deepened his bond with both kin and audience, cementing the perception of Otto not as an isolated figure of